Hello there, this MD is here with you on GebZilla. This video is all about the pen tool. We're gonna draw these icons. You might be thinking, hey, these are the same icons from the curvature tool. They are. We're gonna compare the curvature tool with the pen tool, because really as an Illustrator user you're probably gonna need both. So let's jump in now and figure out the pros and cons of the pen tool. Alright, to get started, we're gonna redraw the same things. Just to kind of see clearly the differences between the curvature tool and the pen tool. Save some time, if you go to File Open, in your exercise files there's one called pentool.i. I've just kind of imported that graphic already for us, ready to go. And the reason we have the curvature tool and the pen tool is kind of a really kinder staple for pretty much all graphic design programs and 3D and drawing. Lots of things use the pen tool. So once you've learned it in Illustrator, you can use it in the same tool and work the same way in Photoshop, in InDesign, SketchUp, 3D Studio Max, After Effects. Lots of different programs you use the pen tool. The curvature tool is new and just a bit easier. But really you need to know both. The slightly harder version, or more controlled version of the pen tool, and the curvature tool, so we're gonna use the pen tool. The first thing to note is which is just a bit easier. Get caps lock on your keyboard. So just look down on your keyboard. You can turn caps lock to make your type uppercase and lowercase. By clicking it on and off, it changes it from this pen tool to the crosshairs. I'm gonna show you that, because you might have it on, and you may like, wow, freaking out. It doesn't change it at all, so just tap it on and off, you can decide, fountain pen looking thing. And we'll start with the funnel here, we're gonna stay with the little, it's just a different way of working. The pen tool draws by, so if I clicked once maybe with the curvature tool it gave us a curve. Because it's kind of the opposite of the curvature tool. Default straight lines. If I clicked once with the pen tool once, it just gives us corners. So commas are awesome with a pen tool. Come back to the beginning and click once. Comma, so it's slightly different. Just keep clicking, and let's remove the fill, so I'm gonna have a fill of none and a stroke of black, and so how do we do curves then? Let's get back to this guy. Let's pick a curve. Let's pick, say, this curve here. Yep, and you click, hold your mouse down, and drag. And then you get this random thing. Well, we've seen it before, right? We saw it with the curvature tool, and I guess that's why the pen gives us the fine adjustment. The tool is the way it is. It gives us fine adjustment straight out of the bat, where the curvature tool does a bit of thinking for us. So what we do is click it, and where do we drag it? You drag it whichever way you want the drawing line. So I'm gonna keep drawing down this way, so I'm gonna drag it down here. And how far do I draw it? You kind of move the mouse out and you're like, that's what it's doing. This comes with experience, so it's kind of hard to kind of guess this first one. So we're just gonna drag it out this far, comma, and nothing happens, right? You're like, it's not until you let go and remember that anchor point, and these are the handles that kind of influence that line. Now some point before kind of halfway through a curve, kind of breaking this into two, there's just not enough control with just one anchor point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do one there, and so clicking, dragging, and because I can try and do it with one, but kind of works. Maybe one over there, by just kind of dragging it around. Then you wanna try and see I can get really fine control, so give it a wiggle, cause sometimes this way, sometimes that way. It's a little hard to, I guess, to get your hit around when you're first using it. So don't be afraid to move this in and out, up and around to see if we can get the curve. Awesome, where's my other curve gonna be? Remember, we can adjust it afterward by using the white arrow, so don't be too worried about your first go at it. Click. And clicking once like I did there, it's gonna give me a corner, so that's not what I want, right? So I'm gonna undo, remember clicking, holding, and dragging following the line around. Cool, you're gonna get to a point here where you're like, actually I just wanna click once, because that curve is good. But we really want a corner, right? Cause if I do this, and then try and do this, we get this sharp comma. So I get to here, click and drag out, and you can see this destroying the line. I wanted it to, well, it was looking good. Don't worry, we put in these first anchor points and handles, only so that we can adjust them afterward. So I'm gonna drag it like this way, drag it up this way, drag it up this way. When we get back to the beginning, what we need to do to finish this thing is we don't just want to click once like we did the curves, so we decide, is it a comma? If we want it to be a comma we click once, it gives it kind of a sharp into it. But if you want it to be curved, you click hold and drag it, you kind of see I dragged it out, and you get this kind of little handle popping out. It's a little bit kind of strange, it takes a little bit of practice. Now, mine looks. Yours might look bad. That's totally, and what we can do, is we can look to fix it. So let's grab the direct selection tool, maybe the white arrow. It allows us to do some fine detail adjustments. This is the biggest ugliest thing. Now there's this curve here. Like it did with the curvature tool, there's these two handles kind of affecting this line. This one's it's this massive guy here. He's kind of doing battle with this poor little guy. So we're gonna say, you be a bit smaller, and be less influential on that line. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy enough with this. Here we go. So you can do this fine, kind of seesaw adjustment. You can move them around, just like we did with the curvature tool. Alright, so here we go. Now, I'm messing around with it. It's looking pretty good. So a couple of things with the pen tool. Often it can be easier to turn off View Smart Guides, mine is turned off. And let's look at how to add, remove, and convert those corners. So let's say this one here is accidentally a corner. The pen tool has its kind of special own tool called the anchor point tool, which will convert anchor points. So you click and hold down the pen tool in this guy here. So, clicking it once will turn it into a corner, click and drag out from the anchor point, will turn it into a curve. Click once, you're a corner, click and drag, you're a curve. What people tend to do, is to drag this out, they're not sure which way to drag it and they'll try, and do something like this. They're like, how's this? And you kind of see what I'm doing, right? It's kind of looping back on itself. So if you're like, man, that's doing some weird spaghetti stuff, it's probably on the wrong side. Alright, let's move on to doing the circle. Yes, we should probably just use the ellipse tool, but I'm gonna use the pen tool to show you how it works. So drawing a circle. We know that it kind of needs to be in all four corners. Click and drag out, that's the first one, it's the hard one. You're like it's nothing, cause if I just start with the clicking once here, and then started dragging out, it's gonna work kind of until I get back around to the beginning. Cause I see to that to be a corner point, right? And you end up with that. So, the very first one on faith, I'm gonna drag it out to kind of create some sort of curve. I'm gonna click and drag you out. I'm gonna click and drag you out. I'm gonna click and drag you out. Wrong way, that way. Spaghetti, good way. And back to the beginning, I'm gonna click and drag out. So, my circle. Terrible circle. I guess I wanna show you this cause I wanna show you how to get nice symmetrical looking things. So I'll show you a real circle. So a circle. The ellipse tool. If I draw this out there's nothing different between, well other than, that one's beautiful and that one's ugly, this one has the same sort of construction. Watch this. Can I see? I got my white arrow clinging on the ellipse. And you can just see it's got anchor points at all corners but they're exact. And can you see, this is the big thing, can you see these anchor points completely across from each other, and they run parallel? They're the same length. You can see my ones, particularly the top ones. These are reasonable across from each other, but you can see that one point that way. That one points that way. So, to get this to be symmetrical, we need this top one to be nice and flat. It's not gonna be perfect, just so you know. But this is how to get kind of balanced lines or nice looking curves. I can never get it right. It's probably because you need these to be somewhat symmetrical. Better, it's getting better. You see they need to be the same length as well. See, this one's short, this one's tall, so you back up a little bit, buddy. You probably need to back up a little bit as well. And you can start to see it's getting better. I just want you to, I guess, get the understanding of how these guys all interact together. There's kind of a bit of a balance thing. Kind of the same length, kind of the same angles, will give you a nicer looking. That's better, right? Better. Alright, let's go and look at doing, we've done the funnel. Let's look at doing our last one together, which is this guy, a mixture of both. So pen tool, what am I doing? It's a corner, so I click once. Big curve, click, and drag right here somewhere. Click and drag. Man, but don't worry, I need a corner there, but need to back him up. Click and drag. But I can do that once I'm finished. Click and drag. Back to the beginning, click once. Grab my wire, drag it out. And just like the first 20 things you're gonna draw, you'll slowly gonna get better and better as you get accustomed to kind of this how life works with the pen tool. And if you are somebody who dabbles and does the pen tool once every 6 months, you're probably not gonna get hugely experience with it. So when you're gonna, I don't know, I've had jobs where I've had to redraw people's faces with lines in it. A job like that gives you loads of experience with the pen tool and its quirks, and you start getting good at it. Like most things, it's all about just kind of getting in and using it for quite a bit. Alright, the next thing we'll look at is grabbing the pen tool, and if you wanna add, say we needed some more control. So this one here, I'm gonna see the icon changes from the asterisk to little plus, I'll add another one. If you wanna get rid of one, all you need to do, you don't need to do anything. You just hover above it. Can you see this anchor point here? Goes from over here, it's gonna add, see the little plus. But here, it's gonna say minus. Let's click on, I'm gonna add it back in. Drag it back over here. And that, my friend, is the pen tool. Alright, are there any other tips? I wanna give you one more. And if you click once and you start dragging, you're like, actually I've messed this up, and you're like, go, stop doing it. You can just hit the escape key on the keyboard, just kind of disconnects it, and you can either go edit undo, or just hit the delete key twice, once, kind of start again. Remember, caps lock changes it from these crosshairs, and it doesn't matter, it works the same way. Just I guess a little bit more precise with the crosshairs. I don't know why, I just got used to using it with the little fountain pen, so I use it by just topping the caps lock. And one more tip is, if you do kind of, somehow, magically let go of this thing, you're like, no, I've got a line, I wanna continue it, cause I've maybe done some beautiful work, I don't wanna have to restart. What you can do is, can you see the icon? The little asterisk means I'm gonna start a new line. Watch this, when it goes to the little /, that means I'm gonna, hey, connect to where I was. So now, kind of connecting up to where I was before. So starting a line again, just gotta give it a click. And that, my friends, is a terrible flame. You are gonna spend a little bit more time, and get it looking great. I want you to then work on this, work on all of these guys. And what I'd love to see is both your curvature tool and your pen tool exercises side by side. So color them inches and alright, we'll get started with the pencil tool. See you in that video next. MD was with you here on GebZilla.